Hello, my name is Miguel Jimenez. I work here at the Computer Science School of the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid as a researcher and lecturer. Let me introduce my colleagues. Álvaro and Carlos are sitting there. They are main developers of WireCloud, a tool that I'm talking to you right now. And in case you have deeper questions, I'm not sure if I will be here at the afternoon, but they will be able to answer your questions even better than me. Well, let's center the talk. Talking about application mashups. I am going to talk about using two different components that you can find on FIWARE catalog and FIWARE Lab. So in case you don't have an open account on FIWARE Lab, please feel free to create one. I guess you know the URL, lab.fiware.org. If you create an account, you have access to all of these tools since they are integrated into the FIWARE Lab. So you will be able to play with the tools that I'm going to create right now and see in action. I'm going to create a chat application, a demo application using a mashup. It will be a quite simple mashup, but you will be able to see the development, how we can upload it to WireCloud, how we can create a mashup with it, and how we can sell this mashup as an application in the W store and acquire it and integrate in our workspace as different users. So you will be able to see the process and integrate the application and see it working. I'm working with Orion Context Broker. So in case you're interested in that technology, I'm also giving an example of the usage of Orion Context Broker that was introduced yesterday. Let's get back to the presentation. Then the outline of my talk is around these three topics. Sorry. I'm going to introduce you what's WireCloud, what a mashup engine means, so as to take to a different point is what can we do with WireCloud. What's the purpose of using WireCloud in a project, in a prototype? How can I make the most of this tool? And at the end, I will demonstrate how easy it is to build an interface with widgets and operators using WireCloud, so as to feel that it's a tool that may satisfy your needs. Well, let's start with what WireCloud is. WireCloud is a mashup engine. Well, that may not tell you many things. Let's divide the mashup into pieces and let's try to put them together and make a full idea of what it is. Let's start with a widget. We call widgets two small parts of an interface. They have interface and they have behavior. And they're small parts of an interface that is focused on specific and small tasks. They usually contact or have a relation with backend services. Usually it's service, it's a single one because widgets are focused on quite small tasks, quite specific tasks, so as they can be easily reusable around among different workspaces in our application or applications. So the idea is that these widgets are quite generic and you can play with your widgets in this interface and with all of them create a mashup. This mashup is a set, an interface created with several widgets. They are not only widgets, we will have also operators. And these widgets work collaborating all of them together so as to create a composite application. An application that works only one application, but is composed of several instances of these widgets we're going to develop. let's remind you that these widgets are focused on specific tasks. So the combination of these widgets gives us all of the interface, and this combination is possible that the user customizes it and adapts to his need. Well, these widgets do not work alone. They work all of them together, and the mechanism that allows them to work together is called wiring. Wiring is the mechanism that allows the widgets to send messages to each other. These messages processes like events, so they are sent and received just in the moment that the developer wants, and allow that all of these widgets in a mashup work as a single application. But not only they have wiring, they have also a mechanism called piping, so as them to contact backend services. I told you that widgets were focused on specific tasks and use a small amount, 1, 2 backend services, and these backend services are the ones that give these widgets its power. So WireCloud is for front-end technology. It does not help you with the backend. You can build your backend in many technologies. You can build your backend using web services, REST services. You can build your backend contacting through the Orion Context Broker, which is a quite good architectural design, and you connect with these services through the widgets. Widgets can contact directly to backend services, or can use another component that I'm introducing now, which is called operator, which is similar to a widget, but it doesn't have interface. It only has behavior. It only has, let's say, JavaScript code, so as to define its behavior. It can be used to do a mashup of data, to transform certain data, to access backend services, and the access logic is quite complicated, and you prefer to externalize it in a different component that you can reuse, because it's one of the main topics here. They use these widgets and operators. So sometimes we will use an operator to access backend services. In the example we're going to develop at the end of the talk, I will show you how to do this with an operator accessing the Orion Context Broker. And not only we access directly the backend services, but we have incorporated into WireCloud several APIs, so as to facilitate the access to different services on WireCloud. We have here 2 examples. We have an API for accessing NGSI. NGSI is the standardized API for a context broker, and it's fully integrated with Orion Context Broker, so you have easier to use JavaScript-based API accessible directly from the widgets to access Orion Context Broker, to subscribe to entities, to write new entities, modify the values, and so on. You have another API for object storage, so you can easily access and upload and download elements that are going to be stored in the object storage. Well, we have shown an overview of the main components in WireCloud. Let's now see how we can make use of it to create our application. I have already said that it's focused on front end, so you can build part of your application here, but you will need your backend services somewhere. At least all of your application runs in the browser. As it's front-end technology, it's running on the browser of the person accessing it, and it's quite useful from 2 different perspectives. For developers, from a developer's perspective, it helps you to easily build your front end using web technologies. You can reuse your web development skills so as to easily create interfaces with WireCloud. You can use it for the full interfaces, but don't forget that it's really useful for dashboards, because it helps you, it allows you to create applications with widgets that you can modify. You can arrange, reconnect these widgets, And it's really easy to create applications for different roles, for administration role, for the user role, for more technical roles. So all of them reuse the same set of widgets, but create different dashboards for different roles in your applications. Since we have created widgets that are pretty generic, create these dashboards is really easy. It was not our idea, but we have detected that several companies use WireCloud for fast prototyping also. In case they want to show an application for a client, they start building the composition with several widgets, because an empty widget is really easy to be created with no much behavior. They link with wiring these widgets, and they can offer the client a working prototype with several actions that sketch up the final idea, no matter if they are finally programming the idea with WireCloud or not. They have used it for fast prototyping. Let's go on with the second perspective. From the user point of view, you have a dashboard, an application, and composable application that you can modify according to your own wishes, your likes, according to your preferences. You can instantiate those widgets and operators, and you can connect them the way you want. So the full behavior of the application is up to the user that customizes that mashup. So from the user's perspective, it gives you the ability to create your own interface. You can choose, imagine a dashboard managing several servers, the status of the network, several problems on the network, and so on. You can choose which components to show at your dashboards and how you can connect all of them together. So as to show you more examples of this, let me show you this real interface made with WireCloud. It was developed for the Spanish Geographical Institute, and so you can see several widgets with maps. These widgets with maps, these two widgets that you can see in the upper part are the same widget instantiated twice, but the behavior is different. One of them is connected to a layer from the OGC service, and another one is connected to a different layer. So one is showing sanitary centers, and the other one is showing earthquakes, and they are bound together. So if you move on a map, the other one synchronizes its position, and the rest of the widgets allows you to read several news from an RSS, or indicate an element and show information about the earthquake. So you can see different widgets working here in an application. This is another example. It's a quite basic widget that is a web browser, but allows you to create in your own interface a web browser monitoring several web or several information that you want. So we have created quite good amount of widgets, and it's quite easy to modify or to directly use them since they are pretty generic. It's really easy to modify a working widget, adapting it to your needs, and it's not complicated to create your own widgets from scratch, but in case that you have something to begin with, it's easy to modify it. You only need web development skills. They are built with web technologies. They use XML for descriptors, HTML for the interface, CSS for styling, and JavaScript for the behavior. JavaScript is the most important part. This is the wiring, the connections of the widgets of the latest interface. The boxes that you see here are the widgets, and these orange and green, blue buttons are the input and output connections that allows you to customize the wiring. The white ones are blue colored, well, depending on the screen. They are output endpoints, and you can create these pipes as you want, connecting them with input endpoints on different widgets. Of course, you are offered with some tools for easily discovering which point is compatible with some other, but it allows you to instantiate the widgets and connect them and define the final behavior of the application. So all of these pipes that you see here are created or can be created, modified by the user. This is another example of a quite different application using the same set of widgets. So same widgets can serve for many different purposes depending on the connections you made with them or some preferences you can add. Let's sum up some of the features. We have configurable dashboards. It's the main important point here. You can create as many dashboards as you want with your widgets or only a single dashboard for your purpose, but you have plenty of features that allow you to ease your work. We have talked about wiring and channel creation for connecting the widgets. These widgets and the operators have preferences. You can include some preferences so the user can modify it and your application is richer. You have access to several information about the context, the user, the name of the mashup, and so on, that can serve you at some time. You have also an HTTP proxy because regarding the security model of JavaScript, it's complicated to access servers different from the one that downloaded this code. And so as to solve this problem, WireCloud integrates an HTTP proxy, so accessing a backend service through HTTP is pretty easy. You don't do the request directly, but through this API, which is quite similar to the Ajax APIs of browsers. We have already indicated that there are several APIs for some generic enablers that simplify the integration of WireCloud with these projects. And let's go on with some features that I have not mentioned before. You can create public application mashups, so you can create your mashup, customize it, state the preferences, and so on, so making your application. You can make it public, so as others access this mashup. So some of your colleagues can have the access to the same mashup, exactly the same as you created, but not only this, but you can embed this mashup in any page you want. You can generate, gives you an iframe with the contents of the mashup, and you can integrate it in any external page. So part of the entire interface of your application can be made here and easily taken to a web with your header, with your styling, and so on. And of course, it's integrated with a WStore of FIWARE and the identity manager, so the same users that you use for accessing this front end are the same that you have or should have access to other resources, data stores, other services, backend services, and so on. It's an example we did with an embeddable mashup. The rightmost side of the web is a mashup that we integrated in our web page. So this is our Conway Lab web page, and we integrated this vertical shaped mashup there. It's quite easy since you're given an iframe, and the code of the iframe is pasted as it is in your HTML and copied externally. Well, more things that we are working on. We are just about to release WireCloud for tablets. WireCloud for tablets is an evolution of WireCloud that allows you to create hybrid applications that, for example, on tablets, they're working with Android and iOS. It uses native components that working directly with JavaScript may have poor performance, but using the native component run much more smoothly. Let's say maps, using native map of the device. Let's say audio and video players. Let's say phone capabilities. So you can create widgets that can be shown on our web page or can be exploited with richer features through a tablet. We have some developed examples of maps, of players, and some richer applications. And let's go on with a short summary of recent success stories. WireCloud was or has been used for the Spanish Center of Graphic Information. We have collaborated with them in the creation of several widgets based on geographical standards. And we have a catalog of widgets with them. It was used by the project FIWARE that won the first prize on Brazil Campus Party in this year. And it's also used in the project Malaga citizens that have developed a huge amount of sensors to Malaga city. They send information back, and WireCloud is used as a front end for showing several graphics, statistics, and so on obtained through this network of sensors. So these interfaces that you see here are created with WireCloud. And let's go on with the more technical part. Let's see how we can develop our own application with WireCloud. As we have said, there are two main components. In WireCloud, we have widgets and we have operators. The only difference is that operators only have JavaScript code, only have behavior, but widgets have their part of the interface. They have graphical representation. In any case, this is the basic structure of a widget. Widgets have some description, XML file, usually called config XML, describing some properties of the widget, vendor, version, name, access to the description, main file of the widget, features used on the platform, preferences, input and output endpoints, and so on. It's a declarative element that indicates what the widget is going to do, and it's in case of a widget, it links to the HTML file that is the main interface of the widget. As widget has interface, it's created in HTML, and the HTML is linked from config XML, and this HTML file itself references its JavaScript files, its CSS files, or any web-based resource that it requires. Usually they are created in this structure: a JavaScript folder, an CSS folder, an images folder, and so on. You have also an image for showing it on catalog or on the store and so on, and that's all. I have this example in slides, but it's not really, I didn't like it very much. And we're going to create a widget and an operator, of course, with some background code that I have created so as it works, because it doesn't take you much time, but then I am prone to errors, so let's try to avoid these errors. Well, I have not mentioned that folder structure, so as to make a widget, is compressed in zip format and renamed to WGT extension. This rename is not compulsory, but it's a zip file, so every widget, every operator, you can download it from the platform, you can open it, and you can access to its internals, to the JavaScript code, to the config XML, to the HTML, and so on. You don't have to do nothing but open it with any zip program. Let's start with a widget. What I want to do here is to create a chat application. I'm going to do a very basic widget that chats at the beginning with other widgets connected through wiring. But I want that the same widget serves for me to chat with other people around the world through an operator that connects to Orion Context Broker. So let's start with a widget that receives messages through an input endpoint and sends messages through an output endpoint. It's up to the user to connect these input and output endpoints to other widget or other operator. Our widget is pretty generic. And after we will create the operator that receives the messages through an input endpoint and sends through the IMDEA FI API to Orion Context Broker and subscribes to entities in Orion Context Broker and sends these messages back through the same wiring mechanism to a chat widget. Well, the first thing we need is a config XML. I'm not writing it from scratch, of course. Let's start with a basic version. We have several syntaxes for this config XML file. You can use syntax in RDF, there's syntax in Turtle, and there's syntax in plain XML. I think this one is the most clear syntax, so that's the reason why I'm writing with it. But you can find different syntaxes for these files in case you download some widgets from the W store and so on. You may find some different syntaxes. It's pretty easy to understand. There's a root element called widget. In the operators, the root element is called operator. I have several non-functional properties here, indicating what's the image, what's the email of the developer, the name of the widget, and so on, and some other properties that are in the attributes of the main element. And after that, I have several elements and more than I will create regarding some functional properties. So in this case, I'm writing a basic chat. I'm renaming it so as to make sure that anybody has uploaded to the public instance of WireCloud any widget exactly with this example, because this example is public. Any of you can have created it. If you want to use this example and modify it and upload your own version, you should change vendor name and or version, because the platform won't admit two different widgets with the same vendor name and version. Indeed, it won't upload your widget, and it will keep the version that it's at the platform. So that's the reason why I'm changing it and renaming it, and I won't have any problem. I call it my chat. The rest of should be great. I have a logo here, chat logo PNG. I think it's here. I have already this logo, some description and so on. It's already created, and the relevant thing here is this line that references to index.html. It's the main file of the widget. It's the file that defines the interface. So I now need this index.html. I have it empty, so let's create some content. It will be quite easy. Let's say that this HTML has its own HTML and body elements. It's full HTML file that will be integrated into an iframe. Each widget will be placed into an iframe, so you have no problem with identifiers, with JavaScript, and so on. This HTML references a style sheet called style CSS and JavaScript file. So this will be the next files I want. The CSS is for making it pretty. Don't expect from me that it's pretty. It's only useful, but I am providing initial content for the CSS. You can use later, but it's not pretty. My own limitations, sorry. And let's start with a basic, and I'm going to explain why this huge amount of lines means basic. JavaScript. I'm writing into a closure function and a small init function that registers for several events at the interface. I have a send button, and I am already registering the handler, and I am getting information from external site called Gravatar so as to get my image and my preferred username, and to show you how I can make an HTTP request using the example. And the rest of the code is for managing, for dealing with the interface, for creating elements at the interface. As I receive a message, I will create a div with a paragraph and an image and so on. So I don't want to go on this, and that's why I have copied it right now. I have now an almost empty widget that has a panel for writing the name, send button, but it doesn't have anything else. Let's start with some of the features we want to integrate in the widget. Let's start with a preference. I am creating a preference in the widget that allows me to indicate my Gravatar profile. So the widget can access to my image and can access to my short name. What do I need to create a preference? I have to declare it on the config XML. Let's create elements here. And I'm creating a preference. No. Please. With control. I'm creating a preference called Gravatar, so it's the name I will use at the code so as to get the value of this preference, which is of type text. Now the widget has a new preference, which is a text that allows the user to indicate what his Gravatar profile is. So in case you use this widget, you can customize with your own Gravatar profile, and you will send messages according to that Gravatar profile. I could use my username at the platform and so on, but I wanted to show you how to do an HTTP request, so that's why I'm using this preference. In case we want to read the value of the preference, we have to use this code. Let's take it to the init. I think it's better to create well, at the init I get the value of this preference as a platform.preference.get. So this is how I get the value of a preference. Well, it's great when I start the widget. When I initiate a dashboard, I get the preference. It will be enough, but we have a problem here. If the user changes its value, this code is not executed again. So I have to subscribe to the change of these preferences. So in case the user changes one of the preferences, I get notified and redo some things. For example, with this preference, I'm going to access Gravatar website and download some information from the user. So that's why Great. Indentation is not working really good. And I am taking this line to the get info from Gravatar function. That's better. Why is not indenting? Better. I am registering a callback function, so in case that some preference change, I am invoke this function with the values of the new functions. It's a hash value, and I can know if one of the preferences I'm interested in has changed or not. In case it's changed, I am getting information from Gravatar. Well, I am dealing with the preference. I know what's the value of the preference, and I'm notified when it changed, but I need to access an external HTTP server, and I'm going to do it through the HTTP proxy inside WireCloud, so as to avoid cross-site scripting problems. Let's populate the get info from Gravatar function. I get the URL. I am doing some hacking. Because I'm going to request from Gravatar the JSON value of a profile, because they offer you several options, and I want the JSON so as to parse it and obtain the hash that gets you access to the image and get the login name. It's a typical HTTP request. In case the request succeeds, it will call this function. In case it has an error, it will call this other function. And in this function, if I get information on JSON, I will deal with this information somehow. I'm only writing it, not doing any intelligence here. Only writing it. Here. I will make my interface to print my image and so on, and I will store in a global variable inside. Well, you can use your JavaScript styling here as you prefer. And this is how I make an HTTP request. And in case the request succeeds, I can do something with the request. If I have requested JSON, well, I pass the JSON and get the values. In case you request HTTP, you have to obtain it, the values with jQuery or something similar. Well, we have almost the behavior done. This is an example of what I received, but I'm not going through it. Let's go through the last feature that I'm going to integrate in the widget. We have an interface. We have a Gravatar profile. When the widget loads, it reads the profile, gets there, downloads some information, and prints my image and my name in the widget. And I need to talk and receive. When the user clicks send button, an event, a message, it's sent through the output endpoint that I'm going to create. And when I receive a message to an input endpoint, I have to print it somehow. The first thing I need here is to define these input and output endpoints. In a new section called wiring, I'm creating as many output and input endpoint elements as I want. All of them have a name, which I'm going to use it through through JavaScript. I have an output endpoint called send message, where I will write text, and I have an input endpoint called receive message, and I'm expecting to receive text through there. When I want to send a message, I call a function of the platform. And
Vale, ya estoy viendo a Miguel.
And when I want to define my receiving behavior, I have to register a callback function. So as in case an event is received, it's called, this function is invoked. Well, let's go to it. Sending the message is pretty easy. I have here the send button handler, my handler of the click event on the button. So here I will write some text. This text has to be picked from the input element. I think I have it here. Well, I have a richer version, taking care of several problems that may happen. It doesn't like me. It's about the size. Well, it does this Mashup platform wiring pass event. I get the value of the input endpoint, but I'm doing here a little bit more of things. As soon as I write text, I am creating a JSON object and serialize it so as to send richer information documents through these input and output endpoints. So by now they only support text, but you can create an object and serialize with JSON. When receiving it, you recreate this object deserializing with JSON also. So that's why I am JSON.stringify the text and send the user data and the hash. The text to send as message attribute and as hash attribute the hash of the user received from Gravatar. So the receiving person has my hash, and that's how it gets the image. We have the send functionality. We need the receive functionality. Well, that's not complicated. I'm copying it and using it directly. Process message. I have the process message. No. I need it entire. A function called process message that it's invoked each time I receive a message and prints an element inside the panel. And how I tell the platform, call this function in case you receive a message, I have to register a callback. That's something to be done on the init. Doesn't like me. Well, it's done. It should be done. Some code and so on, but it's pretty easy. In case you want a preference, you declare it and get access to it. In case you want to make an HTTP request, you use the platform API for doing it. And in case you need wiring, you need to declare output and input endpoints. And for output endpoints, use a simple API call to send data. And to receive, you have to subscribe one of your functions in case the widget receives a message so as to send it to you. We should be done. I'm saving all of them. And let's create our widget. Everything's here. I have the config XML. I have the CSS. I have some documentation that I put here before, my image, the HTML, and so on. Let's compress it and generate. I'm renaming it It's not compulsory, but that's my widget that I can upload to the platform. Let's go to the platform to play with it. We need to go here to My Resources, and in My Resources, click this button called Upload. Not many magic here. Choose my file. Newly created compressed file. Pray a little bit. It has been uploaded, so I can instantiate it on my application. Let's get back to the dashboard, click plus button, and add this widget. This is the interface of the widget. I told you that it was not pretty. Let's look for my profile. My Gravatar profile. This is my profile. And let's click here to get preferences of the widget. I have created one preference with that label and so on. This is the preference I created. And as soon as I click it, it should make an HTTP request. It's taking a little bit. Something happened. I may have made a mistake. Unexpected token. Doesn't like me. 85. I have ruined the interface somehow. Where? I don't know where. At the end, I need. Thank you very much. Let's pray. I'm uploading a new version of the widget. That's why I'm creating a different version, because if not, I won't be able to do it. I will compress. I'm not renaming it anymore. I will not use it. Upload a new version. This new one. Missing copy XML at the root of the zip file. Oh, I've done it bad. I select 2. I now have 2 versions of the widget. And let's get back, instantiate it, right? Because demo effect is really bad. Doesn't like it. I don't know what. Gravatar is not defined. It's no time to. Another mistake. My God, the only thing that I wrote, I failed on it. Sorry. Sometimes frustrating. I should have picked a demo. Exactly as it is. A version, add, instantiate, and yes. If it doesn't work, I give up. Wait, snap file. Well, it worked. I have a widget, and I'm going to instantiate it more times. I have two widgets. Can arrange them as I want. I'm renaming one so as to identify it on the wiring tool, which is the second button. The wiring tool is the tool where I'm going to indicate what's the behavior of this application. When I send something, this other widget is receiving it, and when he sends something, I am going to receive it. So, cutting this, when I write something, it's sending to this other widget. Is there some way to test the development without FIWARE or only FIWARE? To test the working of the widget, no, you have to upload it, but I should have checked the syntax of the JavaScript and so on, so as not to make so many errors. You can use JavaScript DB application or something like that, so as to remove the errors. Well, I'm not going to develop the operator. I'm going to show you one operator created faster on. Regarding the operator, it's pretty similar. It uses an operator as root element. And, well, I have several preferences here. I have several preferences on the operator. Two of them are for connecting to the Orion context broker, the internal API and the endpoint of the context broker. And another one is a chat room I am created so as to create different chat rooms. It has wiring for receiving and sending messages, so I connect it to this widget the same way I have connected to widgets. And so it's pretty the same. What is the main part I want? Where's the JavaScript here? It does not point to an HTML file, but to a JavaScript file. Since it's an operator, it has not interface, it links to a JavaScript file. And regarding this JavaScript file, similar structure. Well, for accessing NGSI, after declaring it on the config XML, we create a connection with these preferences that I showed you before. We create a connection. When we want to publish something, we are using the add attributes function that receives an object like this, indicating the type of the entity. I have created a new type called chat message. I have created an identifier concatenating timestamps and the name of the chat room, so as to subscribe only to certain messages. And I created a hash attribute and a message attribute. So every entity receives the hash to link to the image and a message itself. When this operator receives a message, publish it a new entity on the context broker. Create this element, and this is published to the context broker. And in case it wants to receive messages, it has to subscribe to Orion context broker. The structure is here. It subscribes to entities of type chat message, subscribes to entity whose ID starts with the chat room, and no matter which characters are after. So I get only messages sent to a certain chat room. I can create several chat rooms this way. And for 30 minutes, and on the change of any of the values of the creation of an entity, it is invoking me. Whenever I receive it, I do a push event. So it subscribes, and the callback function for the subscription is pushing events to Wire. That's why I can link this widget, this operator, to the widget I have pre-created. Let's compress it and upload. I don't know if this version is the latest one. And let's add a new resource, operator. It should work. Different image. It's called widget, and it's an operator. You can see the different label in it. I don't instantiate it here, but go to the wiring tool, click operators, and use this operator. It looks similar, but it's an operator. I'm doing the wiring exactly the same, and this chat operator has another preference for the chat room. Let's write IMDEA so as to create a new chat room, and let's try it. I am receiving the echo of my message, and in case you use this, in case you use this widget and the operator through the Orient Context Broker, you can contact with people everywhere because it's used in a public instance. You have here a mashup with only a widget and an operator, but a mashup. You can make the mashup public, and anyone connected to this mashup could chat here. Choose a different chat room and chat. You can embed it and generate an iframe that you can incorporate in any other web page with this mashup. That's what I told you before. Or you can even upload the mashup to your resources. I'm telling it that the mashup has the operators and widgets inside it. So as if you get it, you have these components integrated. Version 1.